Hey, good morning and welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for joining us on CNET's daily live news podcast show. We call it the 359, unless you're watching it on a slightly larger screen with no other discernible improvements, in which we call it the 359 10S Max.
Ooh.
Zing?
That's
Zing.
a good zing.
You can take a
that
guess.
zing is accepted.
You can take a guess as to what we're going to be talking about on episode 459 today. But to do so, we've got Ben and we got Scott at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ouch. Jeez. That was another zing that you just threw in there.
At least just kind of floated in there, didn't it? That was just something.
Done.
Okay.
Brian's getting punchy from too many iPhone podcasts, which I understand.
Hey,
I understand. But
if I were Brian, I'd feel the same way.
We've got product
I
today.
feel punchy.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got product. Forget about me. We got the iPhones.
Forget about
We got
Scott.
the iPhones 10s.
So let's either way, as you can tell from the headline, we're going to be talking about the 10S and the 10S Max. We'll also throw in a quick story from CNBC that reported yesterday about more Alexa-enabled products that are expected to come out later this year, including a microwave.
I thought they made all the Alexa products. Don't all
they
the
made
ones
all
in
of
the world
them.
already exist?
All of them have been made.
There are more.
But either way, send in your questions and comments. Scott is here to take all of your iPhone questions if you have any.
Yeah.
And without further ado, let's get to the podcast and we'll see you in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Scott Stein.
So Scott has come with us today to show off the iPhone XS and XS Max. My mistake.
10S Max, XS Max. They'll be called XS.
I'm gonna keep screwing up the names, but either way,
so will everyone.
Why don't you start us off with something easy? Give us your first impressions. What do you think of these phones? Are they interesting? Are they fun? What do you think of the design? Give us like kind of the elevator pitch.
Sure. Well, so I think last year the iPhone 10 came out in November. It was expensive. It was not a phone everybody got, and it was an elevated part of the line. And clearly Apple is expanding that line out, and I think these feel a lot more polished. They feel faster. There's a lot of tweaks throughout. They don't introduce any one new thing, and I think that's the thing. If you're looking for something new technologically, it definitely has a faster processor. The camera is better in a couple of key ways. Faster LTE. But do all those things really add up to something that you need right now?
Yeah, and it's $1,000.
And it's still $1,000. $1,000 for the smaller one or the normal one, and the Max is $1,100. So that is a lot of money. That's laptop money. And if you have a 10, just upgrade to iOS 12 because it speeds it up. And in fact, iOS 12 speeds up a lot of old iPhones. So think about that. Think about whether you want to wait, too, because this isn't even the last iPhone this year. The 10R is $250 less than the 10, and $749. It's coming out end of October. I do not have it to review yet, and it has the same processor, probably better battery life.
It just doesn't have dual camera, but it does have a lot of the same features.
It has the Smart HDR, which ended up turning out to have a real impact on preventing things from being overblown in photos. And it also has the same processor. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have the OLED display, but if you have an iPhone 8 or one of those models, you're using LCD. It's a bigger display. It has Face ID. And it could be perfectly fine for you.
All right, so I want to tick off a handful of important elements here. So features, to me, is an important thing to talk about for an S year. So we were discussing this a little bit before the podcast. 1 year for an S year, there was Touch ID. Another year, there was Siri. I think 3D Touch was another one.
3D Touch was another.
With this year, there wasn't like a feature for them to like really hang their hat on and say like, hey, here's the new thing that you can really get if you buy this product.
Right, and there wasn't a thing to really dive into in the review to say, here, I can show this off per se, and it makes it challenging. A lot of the potential here, it's totally potential. They talk about the A12 processor being used for AI and machine learning, and it benchmarked faster on, benchmark tests, but that happens every year. And the AI gains, well, it's really impossible to tell what that means or how that's going to play out. It's all conceptual, really, for the user. AR looked a lot better, but if you have to be really into AR.
I don't know a lot of people
who's
into
that. AR, right. But, there's that. The camera gains are, I think, modest, but did matter, particularly their Smart HDR claim, which I didn't think would matter to me as much, actually ended up producing, it's a faster focus, more light gets into the lens, and it also prevented everyday shots, like a lamp in the living room. It had more detail and it prevented it from being blown out, because I still felt I had some blurry or slightly blown out photos on the iPhone 10. I didn't find them as much. But still, there's a lot of other cameras out there. Pixel 2 is great, and it's often considered the best camera.
Yeah, and a new Pixel is expected to come out. So
Pixel
last
3.
question.
So,
last question
we'll
I wanted to
compare.
get to too, related to this, is if you have an iPhone 10 from last year, is it at all worth upgrading to one of these phones?
No, I don't think it's worth it, because I think you should update to iOS 12, which improves the performance of a lot of iPhones. Try that out, and already it's made a difference on the iPhone 10 model that I've been playing with. And see what that's like. And if you have a plan that's going to upgrade you year over year automatically, and just money doesn't matter to you somehow, then, sure, update. But I think for any normal person who's spending money that they really care about, just stick with your phone. Be happy you got the iPhone 10. It's a really good, solid model. These are more incremental upgrades.
Yeah.
And I think if you've been waiting for a phone, like an iPhone 7, this is a really good time to upgrade. However,
because it's a little bit cheaper, yeah.
But it's a little cheaper. Wait for that 10R. That's the one. So we're really caught with one shoe dropping on these iPhone reviews.
So we're already out of time, but I do want to get to one quick other story we wanted to mention from CNBC. They reported yesterday that Amazon is planning to release at least 8 new Alexa-enabled devices this year, including a microwave. Exciting?
I've always wanted an Alexa microwave to call from across the room to cook my corn. I know, there's too many Alexa devices. I guess if you're looking for one smart assistant to control your life, like a Ray Bradbury novel, yes, you want everything Alexa. But I just think about 10 years from now, like, will that platform hold, or will you be buying all new connected
Who
things?
knows? Who knows? If you want to read more about these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Scott Stein.
Thanks for listening.
Like cooking? Now it asks.
Riveting stuff as always, guys. I'm really glad we spent all that time on that.
Oh,
we got
yeah,
a
no, I
lot
really appreciate
in there
You
in
did.
5 minutes.
Hey,
Good job. Good job.
Thanks.
Good job
Thanks
to
a
you,
lot,
not a
Brian.
good job to Apple. I'm bored. Now, as always...
Did you want me to talk about the potential of augmented reality and computer vision? Because I could
No.
really entice you.
No, but we have a few great questions coming in from the chat, as we always do.
By the way, I didn't talk about the Macs at all, so sorry.
I don't care. ALMSI55. I'm not sure how to say that one out loud. Let's talk more about the camera. They want a full-blown camera review. We're not going to have the ability or time to really do that right now sitting here. But Scott, tell us more about the camera. If there's anything that got improved, it's probably the camera, right?
Yeah, and use the word bokeh as much as possible.
Bokeh. I didn't say that at all during the podcast. I should have said bokeh.
Yeah?
Let's start with that. Bokeh. But I'll just say it a few more times. Camera, look, everybody's looking for camera upgrades all the time. Cameras could always get better on all phones. The landscape has gotten to the point where there are a lot of great cameras. On these iPhones, there are two big things that Apple talked about. One was the smart HDR, and I'll get to that in a sec. The other was adjustable focus bokeh effect. So that whole, that portrait mode effect, which a lot of cameras have now, which creates blur in the background, Apple's now has the ability to adjust that and eventually be pre-adjusted. Big deal, you might say, if you have another Android phone that already does that. Totally fair, because a lot of them do. I think Apple's claiming that theirs is more advanced in the way that it does things and really simulates what a professional camera can do. I just know using it, it's nice to have the adjustable effect. Apps already have that effect, though, and sometimes the effect look artificial. Also, I don't use portrait mode that much. I'm just not. It's a separate mode. To me, launching that mode and finding the right distance to take the photo is usually a step too far. You just take a photo of someone. It's already. If you get close to them, it's a portrait. Doesn't need to be. Doesn't need to have soft focus.
So you were going to get to smart HDR as well.
Yes,
Let's
a smart
dive into
HDR, I think, is much more fundamental. They're saying that it creates better HDR. So you say, okay, well, I've already got HDR on my phone automatically, especially with the last generation of phones, which is true.
Just add the word smart to it. It's
Smart.
instantly
It's
better.
smarter. I think it's a confusing topic that they brought up, and the more interesting thing is when they talked about the fact that the sensor was larger, it lets in more light. That also means it's connected to how fast the ISP is, and also that the focus is faster. So I just found that the It was doing less weird focus adjustment, which I've been finding last couple of iPhones. So it was taking faster photos. And then so I use it as an everyday camera. Our deeper dive tests are still coming. But if you're just taking it around the house, outside, I found that, again, with bright light and darker areas, or if you're in your home and there's a lamp on, is a classic one. I took a picture of my home with a lamp on with the iPhone 10. And if you look at the area around the lamp, it really just feels like a white blob. Against the wall, you'll see it. Now, in this one, it brought out a lot more detail around that area, which is great. And similarly, it looked like some other areas, like a pillow in a room that's like, I have terrible lighting in my living room. The pillow looks crisper and has better detail, whereas before it may have been a little blurry. So that's the type of stuff that's in Smart HDR. Is that a reason to upgrade? No.
Nope.
But is it a better camera? Yes. So it's like, are you better off with that than you were with the previous model? Sure. But, I think people looking for a reason to upgrade year over year, that's not a reason. And I do think Apple had a quieter debut on the camera front. But in a phone, looking at all of its features, it stood out as one of the more interesting things to me that I noticed in the phone.
Yeah.
Because this phone did not make
if you have an older
changes. Yeah.
you have an older iPhone, and this is true with a lot of these models, you're going to notice a substantial increase if you do upgrade.
Yeah.
But from last year, no, not as much.
There are a lot of other tweaks. I mean, there are things like, Apple promised across the board little tweaks. So the OLED, if you put it right next to last year's OLED, it looked to me both brighter and a little more vibrant. But still, I mean, it's like it was already great last year. This is like maybe a tiny bit better. It's not a reason to upgrade, but I think it's been improved. The speakers they claimed are better. And again, it's like, I was listening to them side by side and going like, there's a little Emperor's New Clothes feeling of like, what is really changing? But I even tried with like my wife and like listening to it. They're both fine and loud. The new one is a little bit crisper sounding, but it's like all these things you kind of get to and you're like, yeah, it's not changing anything in any drastic way. Things like this, the screen, Apple's not making any claims for drop resistance, so beware. The full drop tests are coming, but the iPhone 10 shattered really easily. They're saying that glass is more scratch resistant. We'll have to see over time as we use them.
Yeah, I believe that it's Corning Gorilla Glass 6 is what they were at least hinting at on stage, but either way,
Corning represent.
Let's
scratch resistance
let's
is
get
nice.
to more.
Drop resistance is a lot better. But let's get to more.
Yeah, let's get to more questions.
That was a lot of stuff. We talked about camera, and I started getting into everything.
All good.
That's what you do, Scott. That's what you do.
Yep, I know.
Joseph Gauss, do you guys think that these phone prices are just getting too damn high?
Yes.
In general or overall?
No, totally.
Yes, they're so high. I kept pointing that in the review. One of the subheads for iPhone XS Max was going to be like iPhone 10 $$sign. I think it's still in there.
That's a really good point as far as what you were saying. Like, you're spending so much money, and I'm stealing this point from you. You said this in your video, is that you're spending so much money. It behooves you, for most people, unless you're absolutely like enamored with the XS Max and need to get it immediately. Sorry, XS.
What about
wait for the 10R. So you save money. It's $750, which seems much more reasonable when you compare it to like the way more expensive models that go up to like $1,400 something. But that's still more money. Going back to the original question, that's still more money than, what was it, $650 for the base model iPhones not that long ago. So,
right. It seems like it's leapt up a lot, and it's completely left the realm of, I mean, those are subsidized too a long time ago, like when you got to the $200 iPhone, when they would claim it's $200, but really that was when you're
paying it for 2 years.
Paying it down the road. But still, mentally, there was a period of time when phones were like more of an impulse purchase. You're like, I'm just going to go out and do it. Mm-hmm. Even up to $600, which is like an expensive game console plus. But then when you're in the $1,000 range, you're well beyond impulse purchase. Like there's no one, that is like a crazy night at the casino. That's like that's something you don't just spend that amount of money. Even if it's subsidized into something, you could justify the monthly fee, but like as a way to go, but it's a lot of money.
The 10 sold just fine anyway. So
it's maybe
the type
people
of
are okay
situation.
with it.
Customers are voting with their wallets when it comes to this type of thing. And I personally think that the prices are too high, but as long as people are willing to pay this amount, the prices will continue to stay this high. Samsung has kind of said uncle, and they said, oh, we tried to price our S9 at around $1,000, and people pushed back. So they decided they're going to maybe try to lower prices a little bit more. But we all know Apple, they're going to raise the price as much as they can because they have a loyal fan base that's willing to pay a significant premium.
Yeah, 10 was an introduction of a whole new price tier, and it's stayed the course now and even added a bump up. So, looks like that's a continuing, ongoing experiment to see how far the price can be pushed. They also feel a little more like luxury phones, even down to the finish. Like the Apple Watch has the stainless steel, but also the aluminum model. Now so do the phones. So there's an aluminum middle grade phone, and then the top end one's both stainless steel. So it feels to me a little bit like part of it is you're paying for features, and part of it is definitely you're paying for luxury. And I think that's hard to split up a little bit with those phones. I don't like that move. I want it to just be utilitarian.
Yeah, which they're claiming they're doing with the 10R. But that's still $750.
Yeah,
so.
But that's an acceptable amount if it does all things as promised. I feel like that's okay. I'd still like a better display on that one, and I think that but we will see. It looked really good in the demo room, but that was for all of like a hot 40 minutes. Running around like a crazy person.
Yeah. More questions.
Yeah,
More questions. Well, I just wanted to take a comment from Nick here. He says he's making $60K a year, pays mortgage, but isn't about to shell out $1,000 for a new phone. I'm with you there, dude. I got off the Apple train myself. I was fine with them for a while. I enjoyed my first couple of iPhones. I had fun with them. I'm not married to any feature of any of these phones one way or another, so I ended up jumping to the Galaxy S8 Active just because of the battery life and the durability, because I like to throw my phone when I get angry at people. James Fever, do you think the price will come down?
On
next
the 10?
year.
Next year maybe, but the fact that it's a bad sign for that when this year the 10 once again debuted at exactly the same price. And Apple does tend to keep its phone lines previously. They kind of kept them at the same territory. They didn't creep up too much. They tried to do that on storage amounts. I feel like the 10 or whatever replaces it in the future is going to stay at that $1,000 price. And they're going to have these, they'll have a second tier, kind of like the iPad Pro and the iPad. So I really want them to drop in price, but I feel like they're going to try to get away with it if there's a permanent 10R type phone that stays a little below that, and then they try to say, are you interested in spending a couple hundred more?
Yeah, the other thing to consider too is carrier deals. So a lot of carriers do see the opportunity for like a new iPhone to try to snag new customers, whether you're switching from
buy one get one free.
Yeah, like you're switching from Verizon to AT&T or vice versa or what have you. So I would look out for those, and that's at least an opportunity to try to save a little bit of money. There's also a lot of trade-in opportunities too, whether you're going to do a trade-in with the carrier where they're going to, sometimes they'll actually just give you the phone, as an upgrade. Those are often, really useful. You could also try to sell it yourself on a place like eBay. So there are a couple ideas there, but it makes it a little bit more difficult every year when they obviously price something for $999 as like the starting price.
You end up in a different zone. Like Apple definitely seems very, very connected to the trade-in philosophy and the idea of like you're going to get value back, and so then it's going to aid you to get the next phone. But then you have to be in this cycle where you're always getting a new phone. Like you're like the new phone person and you're like selling your old one, you're trading. If you're not part of that cycle, then you're getting a whole new one from scratch, and this price is real. And I just think it's like a lot of hassle. And then I think that's part of the attempt to steer people into this, like, buy a new phone every year so you can always keep trading them in and keep playing that game.
Yeah, when they still have value.
Right.
The problem
and then
is
you justify
that
and say it's like, oh, it's only X hundreds of dollars.
It would be interesting to see what the iPhone 10's resale value is, though, because they basically discontinued the iPhone 10 and they turned it into the 10s.
That is a good question.
I don't
think
know if
good.
that's going to materially impact or not. It's not. I'm not really sure.
I think it'll still be good because there are only so many of those phones, but it'll inevitably take some sort of a hit.
Yeah.
That was such a duck. I don't even know. I don't know the answer. I was like,
it
could be good, but it could not be good.
During the next question, I'll go on eBay and see how much iPhone 10s are selling for.
Especially if the model someone has. Right now, you're at a point where like there's wait lists for things, so someone might get frustrated and just get a 10 from before and go, Yeah, I just got a deal on it. I'll take it. That might go away in 6
That could
months'
honestly
time.
be a really good way to save money. So definitely keep an eye out for that idea.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up another comment from user Incredible Hulk saying that where they live in India, the iPhone XS Max 64 gigabyte model is upwards of $1,500. That's U.S. dollars translated into India. I don't know enough about money. Sorry, but that's ridiculous. Like, talk about the first world problems. Now, that aside, let's take a step back. And let's say you're Mr. Moneybags and you are just in the Apple ecosystem. You're a lifer. You love it. Good for you. Where is the cutoff to quote unquote upgrade from a 10 to a 10S, whatever, seems silly and pointless. What about the 8? What about the 7? Where's that point where it's like, okay, that's a valuable time to jump?
Good question. I haven't written my own story on this, but I've mentally mapped it out. I think if you have an 8, I don't think this is a fantastic upgrade for you unless you can really justify it somehow in a way that feels like you'd really be pushing it.
If you weren't going to pay for the 10 last year, why would you pay for it this year? If
exactly.
You bought the 8?
That's exactly it. Unless like someone, again, just like swapped them for you in some magic deal, or you had a lease.
Or you got an incredible promotion at work.
Right.
Way to go.
You won the lottery. But the 8 has the same processor as the 10. And again, kind of like the 10R this year to these phones, the 8 had a lot of the same internals as the 10. So you're getting internally basically the same phone, just the 10 had a better design, or an improved design. Maybe you like the 8 design better, depending. But so I think it's the same proposition. The 7, it does fit that, like, this would be a good upgrade for the right price. I mean, I think iOS 12 really changes the equation this year. Again, Apple, we're just testing that more and looking at it. But I mean, iOS 12 aims to improve a lot of the old phones. So upgrade your phone to iOS 12. I feel like I've never been more into upgrading a phone to a new OS just for that. Because if your phone suddenly feels faster and you can get another year out of it, that's everything. Because it means you can wait another year.
Point.
Yeah.
Wait
a year if you can. Really think about whether you need it. If your phone's fine, my wife uses an iPhone 4S.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is not recommended.
No, but that is extremely impressive.
Do not do this at home.
Is she still getting life out of that thing? Does
My
it still
God,
work okay?
It's going to die any day.
That's
it's
pretty
like,
impressive.
Battery life is, she says it's fine, but I think it's like pretty bad at this point.
Did she replace the battery at some point, though?
No.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. So she's like, call me at the other.
You should write a story.
I'm sorry, Joanna. I should.
You should write a story that just says, my wife still has an iPhone 4S.
I know.
And then, like, drop
and
the
an
mic
iPad
and walk
too.
away.
And an iPad too. So she, and this is like by her, this is by her choice. I'm not like, I'm not, she's into this. So she was driving and suddenly said she lost directions, like the GPS wasn't working. I'm like, that's probably going to happen because like you're running some version of iOS that I don't even know anymore. Like it's not upgradable. She couldn't get the new Whole Foods app.
You got me beat. Yeah.
Hey,
My wife is working on an iPhone 6 with a cracked screen. So
it keeps our home bridging the gap between technology. I'm bringing home the new fun toys and she's using the 2011 stuff.
Yeah.
It'd just be funny if she's trying to navigate and it's a map from like 1982.
Right.
Oh,
or
yeah,
something.
So if you have an iPhone 4S, you should upgrade to this year to definitely one of the
Or
new
at least
iPhones.
consider. Yeah.
But if you have I think 7 is a good upgrade, but wait for the 10R. Again, these are premium phones, the 10S. See if the 10R is right for you. It probably is.
Nice.
All right, we are going to try to get through a bunch of questions here at the end because we've been rambling.
Lightning round.
Let's talk
All right.
about Face
For real.
ID. Has the Face ID been significantly improved? Is it a measurable, notable improvement? Or just like, it seems like it's kind of better? And multiple questions coming in about having more than one face to unlock the phone. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So more than one face to unlock the phone is part of iOS 12. That's like an alternate appearance. So you could do that with last year's iPhone 10. I haven't played a ton with that, but it's basically it's like a fingerprint. You're adding a second face. So that is nice to have. It still stays in one. It's not multiple accounts. It's multiple faces to access your account. Could be good if you're helping take care of someone or if you've got a kid or it could be a million reasons for that. Face ID is faster. It didn't change. I've had a rough time with Face ID in some ways over the past year because it does not work sometimes, meaning that maybe your hand's too close or your hand's on your face. And if you held it up perfectly each time, it works. But when it recognizes and when it doesn't is quirky. Apple didn't change the angles on the True Depth camera this time. So it's not like you're going to be able to get it on a better angle, unfortunately. Distance is still the same. It is faster. That's because of the processor and, that neural engine that they talk about, which it's just faster recognition. iOS 12 also improves Face ID on the 10. So I don't think the gap is all that great. It is faster and it helped out, but it's still similar as far as the proposition. But I still think it's like anything that's better is good. It's not a reason to upgrade, but it's making the Face ID proposition for logging in better. I'm still not wild about that proposition because I just thought Touch ID was really fast for me and one-handed, and you didn't have to look at the phone.
Nice.
Even more commentary on monetary conversion in Canada. The 10R is starting at $1,000. In Brazil, it's listed at $2,500 after conversion. This is
After
insane.
conversion.
After conversion, but still.
That's wait. You're gonna pay $2,500 American dollars?
Correct.
For the phone in Brazil.
Correct.
That sounds horrible.
That's a nightmare. You should fly. Well, I guess that's where you would do consumer gadget tourism, and you just fly to the U.S. and
That's a thing.
Yeah. Well, like the flight would be less, right?
Come visit us.
You just get a trip to the.
Come visit us. Buy a bunch of iPhones. Bring them
sure you
back
can get a
home.
trip for
Stop
less
off at
than
Canada,
$1,000.
get some health care, and then turn around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As always, thanks to our international audience for keeping us well advised. From Srinjoy, while we're talking about the Face ID, let's talk about the front-facing camera. Did you talk about any possible improvements there? What can you note on that for our good friend Srinjoy, Scott?
Sure. Front-facing camera, again, it's got that same smart HDR going on, and the portrait mode improvement for the bokeh and some that adjustable stuff. It's good. It's not like a gigantic leap. So
That's your answer to everything.
yeah, I know.
That is basically this
That
phone.
is basically this phone.
Yeah.
Even the 12. We'll get to the chip in a moment, but or hopefully we will. So that's my thought on the camera. The proposition hasn't really changed much from it, but the photos are all looking better, and to the point where there are some shots I'm taking that I go, these look really damn good. But I thought that last year too. So I mean, phone cameras have been getting to a great point. They're not at a point where my jaw would drop to the floor and I would say, how is that even possible?
They need to make
this shot.
They need to make this phone fold. The phone needs to fold.
That's the next step.
I know
designs.
Samsung's working on this. We'll see if it actually comes out soon.
Should I just add something about the chip?
I think we lost Brian.
No. I was just fixing a cable real quick while you guys
Oh,
were talking.
cool.
Oh, that's fine. I
That's
love
how
cable
bored
fixing.
I am with the iPhone. I am.
Yeah,
just,
no, go
I
ahead.
prefer
Adjust your cables.
Working on my.
Do you have any change you need to empty
I'm
out of
gonna
your
just go
pockets?
solder
Or...
something
you
for a
need to
while.
answer
You
an
guys keep
email?
talking
Sure.
about
Do you want to
the
do
phone.
any beard trimming or anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We could do some beard trimming.
Do you have any laundry you need to make?
Incredible
Brian,
Hulk.
feel free.
Incredible Hulk says we need to get a hold of Tim Cook. We'll get him on the phone right away. Yeah, we've
Oh,
got him on
yeah.
speed dial.
No, I got Tim Cook. I was just talking to him. So, I talk to him like every single day.
There's
No,
a
I do not.
really-
I do not talk to Tim Cook every single day.
There's a
But
fun.
that'd be great.
There's a fun joke that I saw on Twitter, which it was joking around about the Amazon microwave. If Apple created a microwave, which granted, I'd be terrified to know what the price was. Instead of
be
the
beautiful.
time cook button. Instead of time cook button, they would just say Tim Cook, which I enjoyed. I was
Time
quite
Cook
tickled.
is like a great superhero, though, like a time traveling Tim Cook or something, like Time Cook or a time traveling chef. There's a lot of thoughts there.
Yeah.
The digital crown could be your microwave control.
Ooh.
A haptic. You could see.
I want to see that
You
Johnny
could see the
Ive
video, right?
I want that Johnny Ive video.
A beautiful
please.
haptic digital microwave crown. Sure. Well, somebody just asked me today about at CBSN. Vlad had asked me, would Apple ever make a pro camera? And I started to think to myself, that wouldn't be a bad idea. You're like, no. I just feel like if they're investing all of this into the cameras and the sensors and they're aspiring to high design like a Leica, who knows?
No.
There's nothing to corroborate. That's a total random speculation.
If they're going to start a TV network, they can launch a camera line. Why
They
not?
could,
Well,
but
they're about high design. They're about high design.
They did more than anybody else to harm pro cameras by getting your smartphone camera closer and closer.
That's the move.
To a pro camera.
You cannibalize it and then you replicate. Then that's a
We saw Amazon do that. Yes.
Right.
Amazon has built
Alexa
bookstores.
connected. Yeah.
Scott, have you watched John Carpenter's The Thing a few too many times?
Now that you bring that up, I need to watch that again, don't I?
You cannibalize and then replicate? Yeah, sounds like a familiar plot line to me.
I do love that movie.
I like David
way.
Cronenberg. I mean, it's my wheelhouse.
I
Everything
feel
to
like,
me gets
I
terrifying.
feel like the only natural way to end the podcast now is for one of us to like explode into a monster and eat the other one.
Suddenly I just turn into an iPhone XS.
Just frame it up and do like that fade out with knives and McCreary and just like try to figure out which one of you is the thing. Spoilers, it's telegraphed. If anyone's ever seen the movie, you can figure it out.
Huh.
We already look very similar, so I feel like in the end the replication has already occurred. Hi, I'm Glasses Beard Guy.
And I'm also
Glasses
Glasses Beard
Guy.
Guy.
From New York. Welcome.
Bum. All right, we're almost out of time. Let's take a couple more quick questions.
Sure.
How much time have you spent with the 10R? James
None.
is curious about portrait mode with only one lens on that guy.
Totally. So I can tell you a little bit about that. I've been barely any time with it because it was basically as I ran through the demo room. So I've not done any significant testing. But the interesting thing that came that I do know about that portrait effect lens is apparently it will only work on human subjects. This also sounds like a Cronenberg film.
What?
Human subjects. No, but this is true. It's right now it's trained as far as the AI to recognize people because it's using AI to make that decision. So that could be a real deal breaker if you're looking to do portrait effects on, say, plants or anything else.
A dog.
Or a dog. I don't know how that plays out, but that's apparently the case. We still have to vet that out more, but this is via Apple on that. So, Google, the Pixel 2, pulled off a lot of portrait effects with all sorts of things using one lens. Maybe that changes over time. Maybe there are updates. But I do think it's not going to be the same thing. And also, that phone will not have some of the extra portrait modes like portrait lighting, that headshot mono effect, which I still don't really like because I feel like it clips out in a weird way.
It definitely does.
It doesn't create like a really clean, amazing shot all the time. Sometimes you will get it. Other times you will not. I didn't even talk about the A12. If anyone wants me to, do you want me to talk about the A12 or should I...
Make it quick, because after that we want to come back to iOS 12 for just a hot second.
It just the chip promised advancements. I will say in the benchmark tests I've done so far, Geekbench 4, it didn't see a gigantic speed gain, just FYI. Sometimes you'll see like doubling. I didn't see that. It did have 50% graphics improvement on 3D Mark. That is per what Apple claims. So if you're into games, they had...
or AR stuff.
Which
is still very nascent.
Well, between that and then all of that neural engine stuff, which is the extra processing, the AR apps I tried, again, you have to be really into this, really looked a lot better. The video was smoother, the placement better, the resolution was better, even without being optimized. It was at the point where like my kid saw a centipede like emerge from the floor in via AR, and he was like, ooh, that's creepy. And he's seen AR before, but it just a little more unnerving and realistic. So
Well, it's a centipede.
It's a centipede, that's true.
Yeah,
or like a
but
little
lot
triceratops.
But to like pull it off, a lot of AR, and you would probably agree with me on this one, is more cartoony.
Yes.
Because it's just there's a lot of processing behind it. So that's interesting that they've improved the chip to the to the point that they don't have to do that as much.
And it's going to be much more prevalent, speaking of iOS 12, in iOS 12 and Safari and other places. Like there was a demo I tried on this phone. I've used a lot of AR, a ton of AR. They put a sneaker on the table, like an Allbirds thing, and I said, that's cool. And I was like trying to turn it. And then I reached around to try to grab it to move it for the next shot. And I kind of fell for it. But that was impressive because I don't usually do that. And I'm not trying to like overblow that moment. But it does get to the point where I think last year that happened too, that what you see through the screen starts to look photoreal. And I think that is an impressive improvement. But you have to really be into AR. That matters to Apple down the road as they maybe build glasses.
It matters to retailers too. So that's more my wheelhouse is that if you can make it really photorealistic for high-end shopping and you kind of make your living room into a personalized mall.
Definitely.
That's what a lot of retailers are trying to test out right now. So the concept of doing that with this phone, it sounds like the technology is there or the hardware is there, but foundationally a lot of the software, a lot of the augmented reality still needs to catch up.
Yeah, and I think Apple is definitely building more towards AR, and we can imagine if there are glasses, which have been reported, that Apple has to figure out some way to advance AR in a lot of ways. So those chips matter to them. Face ID matters to them for future products. It may not matter to you, the person who's buying a phone, but I think it's those technologies are what Apple's trying to follow.
Oh, I just we have a commenter that said those AR glasses in Brazil are going to cost $20 million.
What?
So yeah, start saving up
the
right now.
future Apple glasses.
The future
I think
Apple
magically.
glasses. No.
Yeah, you'll be paying for them forever.
All right,
Yes.
we almost got to hit the road here, but from APEC, Scott, can you give feedback on iOS 12 for the iPad Pro? Is it worth an upgrade? Don't want the big iPhone 10, so does it remove some of the great iOS 11 features? He's asking essentially, should he just stick with the iPad and get the operating system upgrade there as opposed to jumping onto a new phone?
Oh, interesting. Well, it's kind of a different proposition. There isn't a lot that's really made for iPad in iOS 12. I don't think it hurts to try it out. I think the processor improvements are supposed to help all iOS devices, but it was almost not discussed by Apple. That being said, Apple has not released a big iPad update this year other than the entry-level one, and we're expecting a new iPad Pro maybe somewhere in October or something.
There could be another event coming up.
There's got to be something coming. Now, if they do that, maybe there will be additional updates in iOS that will take advantage for those new iPads. It's really hard to tell. So I think it's kind of the same proposition right now, but this screen is nothing like an iPad replacement to me. It's
Wait.
good for reading and video.
Where's the screen?
Oh,
Other way.
Max.
Bingo.
But to me, this is a big screen. It's nice for video, but it's not the same thing as using an iPad if you're talking about doing work on it. So I'd say maybe stick with your iPad and play around with it and wait and see what comes.
I like that answer. Hey, one just kind of came in late here. I don't know how much you really talked about speed in your written review. We didn't really kind of glaze over it much here on the podcast today, and I haven't had a chance to watch your full finished edited review. But as far as data speeds go, what kind of what kind of speed test have we done, and what can we really take away from it? We've got Hardcore Weather 1 in the chat pointing out that it's been proven upwards of possibly 2 times as fast on data providers. Yeah, so Apple provided a Verizon SIM. I've got AT&T, which is awful where I live in New Jersey, and like god awful to the point where I realize now I have to switch. But so the point is, I tested with my AT&T service and didn't see much of a gain, but also wasn't getting service. Verizon runs really fast in my community. On the iPhone 10, I was getting 170 megabits per second, which is really fast to me. The new one got 270. So that's a big leap. And that is a lot of speed. My home Wi-Fi is 85 megabits per second. So that was great to see. I do think there's no 5G on this, but 5G is still developing. And Apple waited on 3G, and it usually waits on network. I remember when 3G didn't come out for a while on the iPhone. I'm sure a 5G iPhone will emerge. In the meantime, you're going to see really nice speed gains on this.
On your data.
On
right?
your data. That's the Ookla, speed test run of just trying to do data speeds over.
Love Ookla.
I do too. So we'll do a lot more of those tests, but so far, very anecdotally, it is really promising. But if you're waiting for a big speed gain on a phone, you might want to hold out for 5G phones.
Yeah, you might wait a few years.
You might. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. You might be waiting.
I think the mobile hotspot pucks 5G are expected to come out later this year. I wish Roger was here to confirm that.
So it'll be some time.
But and there's arguments as to whether that's actually real 5G or whatever the future standard for 5G is going to be. So
we didn't talk about
it could be a while.
We also didn't talk about dual SIM, but that's not activated on these phones.
Brian's gonna go into a coma if we talk about dual SIM.
Will you sleep on dual SIM? Yeah. One thing about dual SIM that I can tell you, if you're thinking about getting one of these phones, apparently, if you get a locked phone, both SIMs will be locked to that carrier. Just FYI. So if you were thinking about traveling and adding another carrier, get an unlocked iPhone 10s. So that's information. Yeah. That's something that that's new. So you can add eSIM and nano SIM. Anyway, that's SIM info.
Cool.
Sage advice from Scott. Caesar's been really, really patient. Can you just talk a little bit about the 120 hertz display on the 10s?
So it's not 120 hertz. That's the thing that people are
misinterpreting.
A little bit confused about. Yeah, that's the touch sensitivity response. So the 120 hertz displays are on the iPad Pro, which is like that buttery smooth, like you call it True Motion. So these are not that, if that helps you understand. That improved touch responsiveness is what they were referring to. So there you go. So it's not like it'll basically, the display scrolls at the same way that it always had before.
It's slightly more responsive?
Yeah, the touch responsiveness is what what's responding faster. The way that it samples and looks for your finger and kind of like is actively looking for your touch. That's like, they keep improving that. But there you go.
Cool.
All right.
True Motion is good, though.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Such great comments and questions still flooding in about Leica, about USB-C, eSIM. We see it all, guys, but we are like 10 minutes past what we're supposed to do. We'll be back with more, I'm sure, because we can't not keep talking about it. But
hey, guess what? The 10 hour is going to come out in October, so we'll have many more conversations.
Have you back
or we
for
can do
that.
follow-ups. Yeah,
absolutely. Sorry.
And don't forget the Apple Watch.
We have to go.
Have fun, Brian. Have fun.
Brian.
All right,
Brian,
thanks.
you signed up for this.
I know.
Also, there are a lot of products coming in October. It was just a few weeks away.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
there's a lot.
Really
also,
great.
we're a tech website.
As always, Scott, thanks for being on. You really fantastic advice. Legitimately, not just poking you there. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Ben, you want to take us on out of here?
I haven't done this in a while, but I'll try. The 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo. Did I miss anything?
And CNET.com.
Oh, of course.
Great.
CNET.com.
CNET.com.
And using a line from you, and that's information. Thanks, everybody.
That's it.
Yeah.